All right. So let's just start over from the top again. Sound good?
Sound good.
Okay. All right. So hello, Rachel. Thank you so much for joining me today. So to get started, let's start with your pronouns, who you are, and what you do.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Hi, my name is Rachel Fusaro, and my pronouns are she, her, and I am a content creator all around dogs, everywhere from dog training to dog nutrition. I'm actually a human nutritionist. That's what my bachelor's degree is under, and it's kind of evolved into my passion of dogs. And I guess you could call me the everyday dog mom, just sharing my experience and sharing what I've learned along the way with other dog moms.
Got it. So you are a superstar dog mom, influencer, creator, whatever label you prefer. And
Yeah.
your main tagline is save all the damn dogs, which I absolutely love. And you have fairly large platforms on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all the platforms. So talk to me on how that phrase came to be and what it means to you.
Yes. So I actually have it behind me here. Save all the damn dogs, in neon lighting. But so save all the
Love
damn
that.
dogs to me is really my mantra because what it means to me is to empower and inspire pet parents of all likes to do more with and for their dogs. And that all boils down to how we can help our dogs live and thrive as long as possible. But it also has to do with animal welfare. So a lot of people who are following me right now know that I'm currently was fostering a rescue dog. And that's actually how I started on social media. I was heavily involved into fostering rescue dogs, and I would take pictures of them and advertise them on the internet through social media channels of the rescue. And people started saying, like, you should share these on your own platform. And it took me 3 years to get the courage to do that. But I finally decided that I wanted to share the foster dog stories to help them get adopted faster. And that quickly grew because what happened was the rescue groups I was volunteering with we're getting lists of people saying, hey, we want to adopt from your rescue, but we want to adopt one of Rachel's dogs because she documents their journey, she documents their hardships, rehabbing them both behaviorally and through nutrition. And then over time, as my platform grew, and I think I got a little bit of credibility because what would happen is I'd bring these dogs in, maybe were very malnourished. The very first one I documented was Leo, who was bitten by a snake, a poisonous snake, a rattlesnake, and almost didn't make it. And all of them have some kind of behavioral training issue. And what people would see is in a short period of time, these dogs almost transform. And so people started asking, hey, what was that food you're feeding in the background? Or wait, I saw you doing this movement with the dog or this training behavior. How did you do that? Or what was that product you used? And so it eventually evolved into more of a call it a how-to platform because I started just answering everybody's questions about the dogs. And so now, fast forward 5 years, a lot of my focus is more about sharing my values as a dog mom, sharing my mistakes as a dog mom, and sharing what I've learned. And that's really helped a lot of people, and it's kind of where I'm at now.
Yeah, I feel like that phrase encompasses all your content so well. And I especially love your content since it is so varied. We have the positive reinforcement dog training tips, the animal welfare, nutrition. You had some foster content recently, or like your foster fail, I guess now.
Yes, my foster fail. Yeah,
and just
we're keeping her.
Yeah. I was like, she has to keep her. I mean, it was like it was like a Hallmark movie setup almost.
It really was. And that whole thing, it was crazy, but I'm happy with it.
Yeah. And anyways, you just share such amazing general dog parent tips. What's been your favorite thing to explore topic wise or share from the things that you create?
I think for me, nutrition was one of the more recent things I started talking about because I knew it was such an inflammatory topic. And I knew that my way of what I believe in terms of canine nutrition was not the norm. So that was one of the things that I've only been talking about food for the past, I don't know, couple of years, maybe three, well, probably more like 3, 4 years at this point, but I can't believe how much time flies. But yeah, I would think that's probably one of the more interesting topics for me, just because that's my education, that's my background in professional training. And, but I also am really interested and really love sharing the mental health of dogs, because I think that is crucial to longevity, crucial to overall well-being, and for those people that follow me that are fostering dogs, because I try to promote, fostering or rescuing. I think it gives them an easy, actionable tool to go and do some brain games or mental stimulation that you could do with most any dog, regardless of what their behavioral issues are, and see some immediate improvement. And that's really powerful and exciting for me.
Yeah, so just overall nutritional and mental welfare. And, like you said, nutrition is quite an inflammatory topic, but
Yes.
it's also so interesting at the same time, because slowly but surely we're having a larger growing body of scientific evidence for fresh food, specifically for dogs, that, support certain nutrients, specific type of foods, dietary patterns and habits that are showing, an increase of overall health, decrease in diseases, and overall health and longevity, which it's still very polarized, and it's definitely not black and white, and it's a lot of caveats and if then and buts. But I think the way that you navigate it and the way that you explain it and make it so accessible and inclusive to everybody is really something special about your platform.
Thank you. That really means a lot. That's kind of, when I started seeing a little bit of growth, a lot of friends that are much larger creators, whatever that means in terms of reach. And they were like, the best way to grow the fastest is to be very polarizing. Like, you need to be very one-sided, because that gets a lot of emotions heated. And that just wasn't authentic to me. So I try to be inclusive, because I was that dog mom that truly believed I was doing the best for my dogs when I was feeding them a mid-tier kibble at the time. And I truly thought that, like, I still remember the first time I learned about raw fresh feeding was through a local pet store. And they were like, "Are you sure you don't want to try raw?" Like, they knew I started filming videos and I was kind of becoming known in my town. And she sat me down. She's like, "Rachel, like, just try some of this, raw food." And I was like repulsed by it. I was like, no, like that. Why would I feed that to my dog? Kibble is more than that. So I think I can be really empathetic to where pet parents are today, especially when majority of them are coming to me after they've been to their vet, and their vet's like, I had one recently. It was like, you're the second person to come in that said, "Well, Rachel said," and she's, full of it. And so I know how hard it can be to have somebody that you look up to, like a veterinarian or a doctor, tell you that what you feel in your gut is right is not, can be really confusing and overwhelming for a dog mom. And that's what I want to help eliminate, even if just a little bit.
Yeah, and I feel like you're coming from such a place to instill hope and joy and inspiration versus, the quickest way, like you said, to blow up on social media is like fear and greed. So yes. Rather than just, saying, making such a huge claim that everybody's just like, what? And that's what social media can be sometimes, honestly. So having these places of where more like a resource versus social media-y, that vibe or feeling that a lot of times Instagram, Facebook, TikTok can get. It's more of like a friend on the internet kind of feeling.
Yeah. That's actually, I was thinking of like taglines to put like in my my Instagram handle, and one of them I was like, that friend you call when you have a question about your dog, because that's in my friend group. In my human friends, in my like real life friend group, I'm one of the few that's as into my dogs as I am. And so I've kind of always been, "Oh, you have a question about your dog, call Rachel," right? And so it's funny you say that. But I think, for me, there can be so much toxicity and negativity on the internet. And I think there's also, coming to the point of being back to your point of inclusivity, is I feel like there's this need with a lot of creators to be the expert. Like, oh, I know all of this, or I have studied this many hours, or I have this many degrees, or this much certification, or whatever it might be. So I'm the best. So you come to me, and what I say is word is bond, right? For me, that's always been a really big turnoff for me. So I'm more of a, hey, like, this is what I've learned. It may or may not work for you. Here's where I learned it from. Here's some other resources you can learn even more from. Try it and let me know. And hey, if you find something better, let me know, and let's learn together. And that's where I try to differentiate, because I think, again, it can really be a place of like, I think a lot of viewers look for that as well, where they want to kind of be told what to do. And I think my content is more of like, here's what I do, and hopefully it works for you. And it works for some, not for all, but it makes me feel most comfortable.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's important to emphasize that nobody has a real true answer, because we know 100%. A lot of stuff, but especially when it comes to nutrition, there's so much more that we don't know, and the complexities and just the enormity of the topic and how so many topics tie into nutrition to itself. It's impossible for one person to have every single answer. And that's where collaboration and community and being open to different answers and perspective and views, that's how you get better yourself. And we find more scientific information as a whole.
Absolutely. I think that's the way to do it. And it's the same in the human nutrition world. We don't know it all. And I think that's scary to a lot of people. And a lot of times, for me, at least, when I'm feeding my dogs or thinking about what to give them or not to give them, it's a lot of just using my gut, right? Like what I feel is right, based on the dog in front of me. And that can be overwhelming to a lot of people. So I get it's a scary place, but the good news is like you said, there's this growing body of research and humans that are so passionate about the topic, that are sharing their studies, their experience, and even a growing number of veterinarians that are becoming more open-minded on the topic, which is really exciting to me, because even 5 years ago, it was a really different world in my experience with that.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, everybody just wants to do their best and is trying to get as much life as they want out of their dog, because we get to spend such a short period of our lives with these magnificent creatures that depend on us and just love us so, just with 100% so purely, that it's, our responsibility and our honor to do the best that we can for them, whatever that looks like for you as an individual. And it's going to be different 100%. For every single dog too, because they're individuals as well.
100%.
Definitely. So you've been doing this whole content creator, YouTube, I don't know, what label do you like to call yourself? I like to use content creator because that feels less ick to me. Like, I don't know. Influencer feels like too Kim K for me. I'm like, I don't know if I like that.
I'm like, am I really, like, what does that even mean? Yeah, I just say content creator. I think it's the best way to go, because that's really what I'm doing, right? Like, just creating content. I think it's the best term.
Yeah. So I like to show a little bit of the action, of the curtains of being a content creator, because I don't know about you, but I'm sure you get asked all the time, like, how do you do this? I want to do what you do, whether it's, nutrition or make content about dogs, because like, that's what we do. That's pretty freaking cool, right? Like, who doesn't want to make content about something that they're so passionate about? But
yeah.
I like to share what it's really like, right? Because it's not all playing with dogs all day and, being quote unquote internet famous. So what's, in your opinion and your experience, what's been the best part and the worst part?
The best part, that's easy. It's the flexibility and the freedom to truly and authentically live the life that I want to live. And that is spending as much time with my dogs and those that I care about as much as possible. And as you said, like, I think about 8-9-year-old me and how ecstatic she would be to know that I ended up where I'm at. So it's pretty exciting. And the worst part is I don't care who you are, or how, in tune you are with yourself. It the metrics can get to you, the comparison can get to you, why is that person growing, or why am I not growing as much, or the negative comments can get overwhelming. And I think that's probably the worst part. Fortunately, I haven't really had major, I don't know, negative experiences with it, but it's still like, I have caught myself going, like looking at, analytics and being like, oh, wow, like I only grew 5% last week. And then like, I had to sit with that emotion and go like, why do I feel bummed? Why do I feel blue about that? Like I'm still reaching X amount of people, or I'm still, X amount higher or doing better than I did a year ago or 2 years ago. And it's that, what do they call it? That hedonic treadmill that everybody can fall to, where it doesn't matter where you are today. If you drop down just a little bit, even if it's 10 times more than where you were five months ago or 5 years ago, it's never going to feel quite as good. And so that's probably the hardest part. Is it's like, as you grow, it doesn't matter. You always want more. I don't care who you are. Like,
Yeah.
you can get to a point where you're at peace with it. You want more. I mean, I remember thinking 100,000 followers or subscribers on YouTube and I'd be set. And now I'm like, I'm not happy until I'm at 1 million. And like, it's embarrassing to admit that, because I was always that person that these are vanity metrics. They don't really mean anything, right? It's about your community, how you connect with them, the impact you have. And I still believe that, but I still look at those numbers at times and I'm like, man, I'd like to be at 1 million or 10, whatever. And I just have to constantly humble myself and remind myself that those numbers truly don't mean anything, and it could all go away tomorrow. But that's been a very self-reflecting journey for me.
Yeah, I totally resonate with that. Sometimes it's so hard to acknowledge and be grateful for how far we've come versus
Yes.
looking forward and seeing how far we have to go. And sometimes, I just have to remind myself we're just silly little humans on a silly little planet floating in the silly little space. And that it's just like, we're just a little dot in the whole world, universe, floating in just galactic soup. What was it? The new... not James Webb. I forgot. The new NASA Space Telescope. The pictures from that, like I stared at that for like 10 minutes straight from the new,
just like,
we're just like, we're in this. What the heck is this? We're looking back like 14 million years. Oh my God, what is life?
I know.
And it's
it's so true. And it's so cliche, but everything could be gone tomorrow, right? Like, we could lose everything so quickly. So that's where, like, I definitely went through a period of like working like way too much and really losing connection with those really like physically close to me. And literally, I wouldn't call it an intervention, but had family and friends be like, hey, like, we want to see you, like we want to spend time with you. And I really pulled back and created more balance for myself. And I'm so much happier, but that was probably the hardest part. So hardest part for sure.
Yeah. That's awesome that you've created that for yourself, though. Because, I mean, I'm sure it's hard for everyone. I feel like it's, life itself and society can be a little isolating, but we're all just humans and we're all just living our lives and sharing the same experience-ish.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, if you're not enjoying the journey, then what's the point? And that's for me where I was just trying to get to a point. And what does that point even, mean? So, what I do is when I get these messages of like, hey, you helped me with this or you helped me with that or whatever it might be, I now screenshot those and I save them in a folder. And when I'm feeling overwhelmed or feeling like I'm not good enough or whatever, I go back to that. I'm like, these are the people, this is why I do what I do, not for the algorithm, not for the metrics. And that has been a game changer for me for sure.
I love that. Yeah, that's a really fantastic tool to have in the toolbox.
What about you? What's been your best part and your worst part? I'm curious.
For me, every single time you get a message or you're just like, I love your content or you've helped me so much, XYZ. I'm Gen Z, so of course I got to be a little like rev the engine, stir up the pot. And of course when I did, it was in like 2020 in the height of like the Asian hate crimes, and I reached out to a lot of pet food companies that were using certain language that could have been changed a little bit, and just some of the responses and intensity from not only like certain companies, even CEOs, but just like random people just calling me silly names that they didn't know the context and they were just adding things. That was probably one of the worst parts, but I feel like every experience is just a learning lesson, and it gives me something to continue to grow as a human as I'm still growing up, and different perspectives and how people think in the world.
Yeah. Interesting. And that was your hardest. What was the best so far? The positive messages and
Yeah, positive messages and I honestly enjoy creating and the person it makes me and having be in my flow state, and it gives me a really solid what's the word I'm looking for?
purpose.
Yeah, purpose, and also like outline in my day-to-day life to keep learning. Because like, for example, I just did a post on like PEMF therapy, and it's like I wouldn't go and be reading these scientific studies and, thinking of these questions and trying to find these answers if I weren't doing this. It's like I wouldn't be thinking to myself, oh, well, what do the coils and the PEMF therapy do? And how does it, help the body heal and things like that? And all these fantastic questions, because I just love learning, but it's so hard. I think we're not really taught how to learn in a productive manner. So this gives me like a space that's not school, that's not controlled, where it's me learning myself, which I really, really enjoy. And that's where I have thrived so far.
Yeah. And they say that when you teach something is when you truly learn it. So it's pretty cool that, like you said, we get this opportunity to learn something and then teach it. And then along the way, help other people. Like it's as you said before, like we're literally living the dream, like that pinch me moment every day.
For me, it's just, you were just I'm continually learning on how the world works, and that just fascinates me and makes my brain so very happy.
Yes, I can relate. That's awesome.
So kind of switching gears a little bit, I know that you have a very strong background with keto food. And, the interesting thing about keto, it's in the realm of, I know a lot of cancer patients with dogs use that. And because when you transition, right, your body fuels switching from carbs as a main source to fat. So what's your experience with working with that type of diet, and anything fascinating that you've learned or seen along the way?
Yeah. So I am such a fangirl of fat, healthy fats, for both humans and dogs. And the reason being is it's interesting how, stemming from the fat fear mongering we had back in, I think it was the 80s, where everything was low fat and fat was to be demonized. When in reality, it's the most healing macronutrient that we have, and it's the most optimal energy source for our body. When we're using and utilizing fat for fuel, we're not having the same blood glucose spikes. We're not having the same insulin spikes as we would. And when I say we, I mean us and dogs, as we would if we were eating a higher carb, lower fat diet. So really passionate about the macronutrient profile of a lower, not zero, but lower high quality carb diet paired with healthy protein and healthy fats. And again, the reason is not necessarily to have dogs or humans in a deep state of ketosis 24/7, though that can be very therapeutic, but really to eliminate the storage of fat in the body. Because what happens is, even with a moderate carb diet for most dogs, and the cool thing about all of this, by the way, one reason I love this is you can measure all of this. You can measure your ketones, you can measure your blood glucose for both you and your dog at home or with your vet. So this is one of those, it's not like a marketing, like, oh, this has healthy probiotics for gut health. It's like, really, like, so you can actually measure it. But I love the idea of our dogs eating a diet that mimics the way that they would naturally self-select and naturally eat. And I'm sure you've read Mark Roberts' study. If not, I can send it. But he is a PhD and did
Does
a
he work with the
study.
Keto Pet Sanctuary?
No, he used to work
No. Okay.
for, I know, you would think. No, he used to work for, I believe it was Canine Natural, but then now I think he's like just to help with some formulation, but
Okay.
he's his own scientist. And it's pretty cool. This name of it is like Macronutrient Profile for Dogs by Mark T. Roberts. And he basically studied his domesticated dogs. They were working dogs, and he gave them macronutrients, carbs, fat, protein, and let them self-select what they would eat and let them eat as much as they wanted. There was no controlling portions. And they all, every single one of them, I think there were 13, a 1-to-1 fat to protein ratio and very low carb. Nobody gained weight. Everybody had excellent blood value levels. And so, to me, that's a more natural way to feed a dog, which again is lower carb, higher healthy fats and protein. And all that's doing is putting dogs in a more optimal metabolic state where they're relying more on fat as a fuel source, as you mentioned, and less relying on carbohydrates. Because what happens when we rely on carbohydrates too much as the energy source, you get more blood sugar spikes, you get more insulin spikes, and there's more likelihood of having fat stored in the body because it's not being utilized, right? If there's too many carbs, the fat just gets stored, and stored fat, especially in excess in the body, can be harmful. And it all correlates because if we look at dogs today, what 90, I think that 94% are eating a ultra processed, starchy kibble food, and almost 60% of dogs are overweight. And there has to be some correlation behind that. And then you look at humans and we see similarities in that same realm. I know there's other aspects as well. It's not just what we eat. But I think for me, I love the fact that it's common sense. Dogs were never, in my opinion, meant to eat a diet that's excessive in starchy, high carbohydrate ingredients, which you're going to see in 99% of ultra processed kibbles out there. And so but yeah, so, what's great about the diet is you can formulate it at home very easily, or you can buy it in the market pre-made. It's becoming a lot more mainstream now. And it can also be used as like a healthy everyday diet for a dog that's healthy today, or as you said, if you have a dog that has diabetes, cancer, really bad obesity, seizures like epilepsy, if you were to feed them a more therapeutic keto diet, which would mean like a ratio of like 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 on fat to protein, you're going to have more of the therapeutic results from ketones, because ketones are going to be the energy byproduct from that, which are anti-inflammatory and are known to be extremely healing. I mean, they use that in humans for epilepsy since, the early 1900s. So there's a lot of interesting research around it. And then, as you mentioned, the Keto Pet Sanctuary is pretty cool. They brought in dogs from shelters that were end-stage cancer and had no other options. They were going to be euthanized, and with exercise and a raw keto diet, they were able to get, I think, a 55% remission rate, so success rate, which is pretty incredible for dogs that chemo, nothing else would work at all. And then I think, like I said before, I love that you can measure your dog's blood glucose and ketone levels and actually see that they're a lot lower than a kibble fed dog. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think one of the stats from Keto Pet Sanctuary, I think it was like the average let me pull it up. The average blood glucose on a kibble diet is 92.9 nanograms per milliliter. On a keto diet, the average blood glucose was 62.7 nanograms per milliliter. And, the blood glucose is important. It says you want to keep it in target range as much to prevent or delay long-term serious health problems, such as heart disease, vision, kidney disease. This is from the CDC, but very important factor of overall health. So that's hard
absolutely.
evidence. Yeah.
Yeah,
I know
it's crazy.
Keto Pet specific. Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say that the Keto Pet, they also have a lot of actual studies, don't they? Like scientific, do they? Or is it just mostly just case studies? I've seen a lot of their case studies, but I don't know if they have anything published.
They may have something published, but I think it's more case study. case study focused. I
Okay,
think.
yeah. Because I'm seeing like Meet Callie, Meet Blazer, Meet Sasha of all their success
Yeah.
stories and case studies from their 6-week program things or for the mast cell tumors or everything like that. It's real cool stuff. I love what they do.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So, and I love, personally, I'm not always perfect on it, but I like to try to prioritize eating lower carbs. I'm not anti-carb by any mean, but when I say carbs, it's more the general like chips and cookies and crackers and things that we probably know most of us shouldn't be eating in excess. And it's just a night and day difference in how I personally feel when my majority of my carbohydrates come from whole produce, fruits, vegetables, which I know is not always accessible to everybody, but these are things that if I eat that kind of diet with higher and healthy fats and healthy proteins, everything changes inside of me. My mood, my discomfort. Sometimes I have like joint pain. My energy is so different, and I notice an actual difference in my dogs, their energy, their skin and coat health when they eat like that. So I think the anecdotal evidence is pretty exciting too.
Just any inclusion of fresh food, really, because of the role
Yeah.
of the diet quality and things like physical activity, genetics, right? There's a lot more than to health than just what you eat, but it's
Yes.
all part of a huge puzzle piece of, reducing the progression of chronic disease and, creating a healthy dog that can age gracefully and beautifully and hopefully not in pain and riddled with disease. But, there's so many different factors that we're still exploring to this day, but it's fascinating what fundamental role food can have in nutrition when it's proper and really fitted to the individual dog.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's exciting. I know like a lot of pet parents are like, gosh, like there's been this marketing tactic used against us to make us feel like this one bag of food is supposed to be good for all dogs or all adult dogs or even all Labradors, depending on the brand. And so I think that in itself is a hard message to get across to a lot of pet parents, and myself included back in the day, of like, every dog is different, which is kind of overwhelming. Like I have 3 dogs now and they all react different ways to different foods. And that even for me can be overwhelming at times because the time of the year that actually changes sometimes. And as they age, I have a dog that just turned 13 and, kind of adjusting his diet a little bit and just his everyday activities. So I know it can, for those people that might feel overwhelmed by it, every dog is different. I think it's just remembering, baby steps, gradual baby steps and changes. If you feel that your dog needs a change, working with a holistic vet, etc., it can be really helpful.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, just do the best you can. If you love your
Yeah,
dog
because
or dogs,
yeah,
plural, however many.
yeah, and I was talking to Dr. Billinghurst, and he, I forget the term he used, but he was describing dogs basically in their ability to, there's a term for it, and I don't remember what it is, but to derive and gain the nutrients they need from most anything we feed them. So it's kind of contradictory to what I've been saying, but he was like, that's why you see dogs that are like 16 years old that ate kibble for all that time, or 19 years old, maybe had some processed foods or whatever, is because dogs are pretty resilient. And so that's not to say that, okay, fine, let's just go feed them a lower quality diet. But I think what's interesting is they're very forgiving with how we feed them. And, if we make mistakes, we want to avoid them. But if we make mistakes, it's probably okay. And we don't need to lose sleep over it. And it's funny how that's how their personalities are. Have you ever stepped on your dog's foot on accident and they're just like, I'm so sorry you stepped on me, and you're like, wait, no, I'm sorry. They just forgive you.
Yeah.
They're the most forgiving creatures. And it's the same thing with their nutrition and their body and how they can get their nutrients. It's very, very forgiving.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a question for you.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh,
Shoot.
finish that and then ask my question.
Oh, no, I was just saying that we have more and more resources coming out just everywhere. The internet, books.
Yeah.
I mean, the internet, first of all, of hopefully quality information coming out for pet owners that are more of I want to do what's best, but what do I do?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Especially people like you, and you're so young. So like, you're going to be, spearheading that for sure.
Oh,
So
thank you.
interesting. Speaking of Dr. B, we were talking about the term complete and balanced. And I want to get your thoughts on what complete and balanced means to you and the importance of it, if any, and just your thoughts on it personally.
Okay.
I
Yeah, I
know it's a
have.
loaded question, but I love it. No, I love it. Let's do
It's a
it.
big question. Okay, so
I know.
complete and balanced. So complete to me means that it's suitable for the dog. It's meeting all its nutritional needs to what we know now, so like NRC, AFCO, FEDF, at least something to that life
Yeah.
stage. So if it's a puppy, it's going to be meeting at minimum AFCO all life stages for 70 pounds up, and that's like the minimum, right? Because that's what we know, and we know that if they have deficiencies for a certain amount of times, there's going to be health problems. So yes, AFCO, NRC, FEDF, they aren't perfect, they aren't the gold standard, you don't have to follow them to do it to a T, but I mean, it's the data that we have, and it's harmful in my opinion not to use them until we have better data to go off of. Balance is meaning that all the nutrient interactions are going to be balanced, making sure how they interact with each other, nothing's too over, nothing's too under, because that is a part of formulating, which I'm still learning myself, and it's a whole other world than just nutrition. It's the whole separate topic and whole category of learning. So that's what it means to me, and that's my. I mean, I could talk about it more, but that's my final answer, I guess.
Yeah, no, I'm just like it. We started having a tangent when I was speaking with him about. So it's a tricky topic because, for the record, I believe feeding a complete and balanced food is important. Just like you, I agree with everything you said. It's interesting though how, I don't have any human children, but I have many friends that do, and I started asking them, like, when was the last time when you fed your son or your daughter or whatever, a meal, and you even thought about it being complete and balanced? And they would just look at me like, what does that even mean? And so it's just this interesting thing to me. And I know it's probably another inflammatory topic, right? Because to your point, we know that if I was just to feed my dogs some chicken and rice forever, they're probably going to have some deficiencies and probably going to have some issues. So that's not okay. But at the same time, it's interesting to me that when was the last time you made a meal for yourself or a loved one and you thought, okay, is this complete and balanced? Or on a Friday, were you thinking, okay, am I complete and balanced for the week? And I thought that was a really interesting topic because exactly what you said, I agree with, and I still do. But there's still a part of me that's like, is this whole complete and balanced? It just feels almost like a marketing term in a lot of ways. Because to your point, we just don't know as much. And I don't know. I just want to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I see that. I've thought about that too. And I've seen certain videos of like teasing out, like, why are we balancing our dogs' meals, blah, blah, blah. They don't balance their meals in the wild or, things like that. And how we're not calculating our calcium phosphorus ratio. Yeah. But what I think is unique, right? They're 100% compliant on us. So like, for example, we can crave things when maybe we're having nutritional deficiency. We don't have enough fat in our diet. We can crave ice cream or whatever, because we aren't reliant on somebody giving us all of our food and water and attention and emotional and physical stimulation. So that's what I think is interesting. And that's why I think it's like our responsibility to do the best we can with what we have. And like you said, it's not perfect and you don't have to meet it every single day, but I mean, it's gotta aim towards it. You can't just feed like chicken feet and chicken breast and call it a day. Cause that's like, we know that's not okay long-term.
Yeah. And I think, and I agree with everything you say. It's just kind of this interesting, I don't know, like part of me, so I'm the like very paranoid, worried I'm messing everything up dog mom, right? And I'm kind of opening my eyes up to other possibilities of like, well, maybe it isn't so complicated. Like maybe it is, we have their meats and their organs and their livers and some micronutrients in there and bone and, is that good enough? I don't know. Like we just don't have enough study. We don't have enough of data. Yeah. But sometimes, because I'm in all of these fresh feeding groups and I have a lot of friends that are really into the formulation. And I think it's all very important, but there's just little, and then after talking about Dr. B, I'm like, gosh, it's kind of eating at me a little bit because it's like, are we overcomplicating things? I don't know. Maybe we are, maybe we aren't. Like these pretty bowls, and I'm like, gosh, that's a lot. And so it's interesting. I do it, so I'm calling myself out, right? With these pretty bowls and these little quail eggs and kelp, and I do all those things. But part of me is like, man, like, am I getting scammed? Like, like, do I really need to add all these things? So that's just my devil's advocate, and I feel like you're knowledgeable enough to kind of, I don't have an interesting conversation on it.
Yeah, and I think, right, that's a whole conversation in the raw feeding community constantly. There's that one side that every single bowl needs to be complete and balanced, and then there's that other side of, well, you can just feed chicken feet from Walmart forever and you'll be good to go. And I've been feeding this way for 20 years, so it's fine.
Yeah.
And, I like to mix a little bit of leniency and science, though. It's like, yes, you don't have to be perfect, but at the same time, I've got to follow the science and the data and the things we know. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And I think that's also why I'm a big advocate of like rotation and variety. Because to your point, they can't tell us when they're craving something. And so, well, they can in some ways. They'll start chewing on things or trying to eat the grass or whatnot. But other than that, not so much.
They can't be like, so. I need more zinc, though. I mean, it's kind of hard to like.
Yeah, I know. That's interesting. So maybe, I don't know. That's kind of goes in my mind.
Yeah, definitely. So with all the topics that you cover and, you're constantly exploring so many different topics, nutrition training, etc. What are some of your favorite resources that you learn from or reference back to?
For me, obviously reading books, research is all really valuable. And that's really where a lot of my undergraduate studies kind of comes into play because it helped me learn how to navigate research. So all of that I think is important, but really learning from people, because I think that context can be lost in just reading study after study, and I get jaded by them because it's like you read it, it's interesting, and then you start digging into it and you realize it's completely biased, and you're like, oh, how much of this can I truly learn or trust? So I think learning from others like yourself and other influential individuals in the industry is the most valuable way, in my opinion. And even researchers and scientists. And fortunately, because I've been in industry for a while, I've been able to make a lot of connections. So I feel like I have this like endless Rolodex, right, that I can kind of reach out when I have questions. And I feel very privileged to do that. And I think that's actually back to my point of being a creator. Like, to me, it's like a responsibility because I have so much access to so much of this information and these people that are way smarter than me. I feel like there's like a responsibility I have to share what I know and what I have.
Mm-hmm. Do you have, I know we talked a little bit of like, it's so hard to see how far we've come, but do you have anything personally you think about of like before, what's it called? How do I want to phrase this? Before your knowledge of like dog stuff explosion, like pre dog mom Rachel versus now, that like a topic or something that you can think of, like, this is where I'm coming from. So one thing for me is like, before I got into all this thing, I remember not knowing the difference between freeze-dried and dehydrated. And I think about that moment. I remember I was like in the pet store and I remember Googling. I'm like, what the heck is the difference between dehydrated treats and freeze-dried treats? And I was like, which one's better? Because I wanted to get the better one for Stormy. And I think about that and like where I am now, I'm like, damn, good job, Hambi. Wow, look at you, girl.
I know what you're saying. I mean, it probably goes back to that local pet shop that I would go in and I would go try to pick the best kibble. And the pet store owner was like, Rachel, like, because I was always asking what's the healthiest, this and that. And she's like, you got to go with raw. And she would take me to the freezer. She even went as far to introduce me to one of the reps who I'm still friends with today, of the Tom of OC Raw. And he, I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's incredible. He's an educator, very passionate about raw nutrition, and had been in the field for years. She's like, just meet Tom. Like, I think you're going to learn a lot from him. And I still remember, it's an old video that I recorded it. He and I talking and me asking, like, I was asking him, like, what is HPP? And I was like, raw? And I was like, what do you mean raw? Like literally like just raw meat? Like what? I think that's probably my moment for me. Like bone. Like I used to be afraid of bone. I remember the first time I gave my Labrador raw bone, and I was like, he's gonna die. This is it. He's gonna die. And I think those are probably the moments for me. And raw egg, I think, was a big one for me because I thought that was just a crazy, because like they're gonna get salmonella.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that it's crazy you asked that because it feels like a lifetime ago. That was only like maybe 7 years. Like it's not really been that long, so I don't know. That's probably it.
Yeah. And look, for any pet parent that is like, I don't know if I can do it, I'm kind of borderline, I don't know what you're all talking about, you seem kind of weird, we're living proof that if you just take it step by step, day by day, baby steps, you can do it. It's possible. And it's like,
100%.
I say this all the time, and I'm sure you say it too, that like any fresh food's better than none.
Yeah.
Or like,
100%.
even add in any amount, leftover broccoli scraps from your plate.
Yep.
Gross blueberries in the fridge you don't want to eat. Anything.
I know. I'm saying like I don't even need to compost because my dogs, right? They'll eat anything.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah, we have
it's
dogs
crazy.
and chickens, and there's no food waste.
Oh yeah, with chickens you're good. It was actually the other night. Finnegan, my crazy dude, counter surfed, and he's been good with doing that, but he counter surfed, and I'm like, Finnegan, and I'm running over to see what he got. And it was some cabbage, raw cabbage, and he's eating it like he had stolen a piece of meat. And I'm like, well, have it, enjoy. So
Like, fine, you can have your cabbage leaf.
yeah, I'm like, you know what? That's what
Does he
you really
eat
want.
vegetables willingly?
Oh yeah, all of them, all three of them.
He does?
I mean,
Oh.
I don't give it to him. I know, not raw. Actually, I will give him. I've been on a cucumber kick lately, and I give them the butts. They love that. But they
I
would
wish my
eat
dog
raw.
would freaking eat them willingly.
Really?
Oh, they're such butts about it. Yeah.
Even cooked.
Even like, yeah, like green juju, it's like mixed with bone broth. So it's like yummy stuff. Stormy won't eat that, but the other dog, Hoover, he'll just eat around it. And he's like, It's like a big
Even if you
F
mixed
you,
it
I'm just
in,
gonna
like-
leave it. Even if I mix it in, and if I thoroughly mix it in, he'll eat it. But if there's any like little chunk that's not mixed in, he's like, no.
Really?
And if I put
It's
too
so
much,
funny.
I'm just like,
I get a lot of people reach out like, oh, my dog won't eat this, won't eat that. I've never had experience. Well, I guess she's a little pickier, but I don't know. That's interesting. Okay. Yeah, no, they'll eat it all.
yeah.
Lettuce.
I mean, they're flip side of both kinds of dogs. That like they'll eat anything versus the dogs that's kind of picky. Because like I don't have to worry about them counter surfing, but if I had like a lab, for example, I would have to put everything away.
Oh yeah, you can't leave things out on my counters because they'll,
Yeah.
they're good. They're much better now, but like, I'll never forget a horrible story years ago. Finnegan, my husband was making pizza dough, and it was rising or whatever, the raw dough, and Finnegan jumped up and swallowed the whole thing, and I had to use the hydrogen peroxide to make him throw up because it could. I mean, I don't know if it would have killed him, but it could have. I think something bad could have happened, and he vomited it out. It was a whole glob of it, like this big. And so, yes, just don't even risk it.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Oh, freaking dogs, man. Oh, they're
keep
they're
me
all
on my
my
toes.
stress and all my joy.
100%. Now having 3, I'm like, I was just texting one of my friends today, and I was like, I don't know how people with like families do it because like I can't walk all 3 yet. It's just like a lot. So I got to take them on individual walks. And then I got to do some kind of enrichment. Otherwise they just go crazy. And then I'm thinking about, okay, what am I going to feed this one? What am I going to feed that one? And, I've been forgetting to brush their teeth because I've just been so I'm like, okay, I got to put this on my calendar to remember to do that. And I got to do extra training with Marlo because she's just scared of everything. And so it's like, it feels like a full-time job and I love it, but I don't know how people with like families and stuff do it because it's like a lot of time.
Yeah. I mean, they're kind of like perpetual toddlers. So you just kind of showing them like, I got your back. I'm here. You're safe. I will provide all of your needs. You can entrust in me as this weird alien that lives with you, or that you live with.
I know. You have two dogs, or one? You just have Stormy, or you have two dogs?
Yeah, Stormy's like my personal dog, and then Hoover's my dad / the family dog. So it's a different dynamic with Hoover. Yeah.
Yeah.
But hopefully,
that's like my mom's dog, Molly.
Yeah. Hopefully,
You're
we're getting
getting
a second one though.
Like soon?
Like, yeah, like, and it's gonna be born like very soon.
Oh my god!
I don't know. Hopefully, if the breeder chooses me, hopefully, cross my fingers.
Oh, they would be a fool not to. If you need a recommendation, send my way.
Okay.
That's so exciting. Yeah. Oh, good for you.
Hopefully, a little border collie, my dream breed, my crazy breed.
Yeah.
Because Stormy, she's a healer.
Busy.
Yeah. Yeah. Stormy's a healer German Shepherd mix, which you think would be like batshit bouncing off the walls, but she just sleeps all day, so she's kind of broken. But okay,
really?
whatever.
Hey,
I'll take it. Yeah.
I would take that. I have 3.
I'll take it. She's like,
yeah. My 2 doodle mixes are broken, but that's how all doodles are. So, aren't you crazy maniacs?
Bentley's your first dog, right? Is he your perfect first child, and then all the other ones are kind of crazy?
100%.
That's usually how it
100%.
goes. You're like, my first dog's so good. The second dog's just gonna be perfect, just like it. And then it's like your crazy most work you've ever put into a dog, and you're like, okay.
Well, I mean, I tell people I have fostered 60 dogs or more at this point. You know, dog aggressive, like the worst, not worse, I shouldn't say, but really bad behavior or poor unwanted behaviors. My Finnegan is the most challenging dog. He's 5, so it's not like he's a puppy. He's just turned 5. And Marlo, we'll see. I mean, we've only had her for like 5 months or something, and she's tough, but not anything like Finnegan's. He's the perfect middle child. I'll say that. So. Oh, Ian. So exciting. We have to keep me posted about the new puppy, because that would be very, very fun.
Will. Got it. I will do. I know. I'm crossing my fingers, keeping track with Mama's pregnancy. Very exciting. Alrighty. So we're nearing the end here. Do you have any additional thoughts, comments, tokens of knowledge you want to share with the world?
You know, I think you said it well. We just do the best that we can do. And I think with that, that's all we could ask of anybody. And just to know that you're not alone. You know, I know Hanbi has a lot of great content online, and you can come to my page as well. Yeah, as well. You're welcome. And just know that you're not alone in this, and it's okay to be the crazy dog person, dog owner, dog guardian, whatever you want to call yourself. It's okay to be that person. And I used to be ashamed of it and embarrassed. But I now wear it like a flag, and I'm okay with it. So, yeah, that's all I got to say.
It's okay to let your life go to the animals. That's what I have done. And you just surrender and accept it, that this is your role in this lifetime, and you just go with it.
100%. For true happiness.
And lastly, exactly. Totally 100%. And lastly, I love to ask all of our beautiful guests, if you could give pet parents one piece of advice, what would it be? However you interpret the question.
Mm-hmm. I would say this, actually, something I'm doing this year. Spend 10 minutes a day working with your dog. And within 3 to 4 months, you will have a completely transformed dog. I promise you. And when I say working, I mean, it could just be working on sits and downs. It could be working on the leave it. It could be working on some fun brain games, like a 10-minute leash walk, but where you're asking them for sits and downs. And I say that because I promise you, if you do it every day, just 10 minutes, and you could do 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening. And the best way is to do it during meal time, because then they're usually motivated. But spend 10 minutes a day working with your dog, and whatever potential issue or unwanted behaviors you're having, will be gone. And let's say you don't have any unwanted behaviors, you will have a happier dog. And if you're doing that today already, then add an extra 5 minutes, because I promise our dogs as a society are not getting enough mental stimulation, exercise as a whole. Even my dogs, I'm sure I could do even more. So just take 10 minutes. That's it.
Love it. Doing something every single day.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Rachel, for coming on today, your
me.
time and energy. And thank you so much.
I appreciate it. I'm so excited.